Chapter 61, Are You a Human or a Ghost? The transvestite wanted to retreat, but he was perfectly aware of One-Eye's personality. Once he decided on something, he would never back out. He wanted to save his life, and this meant that he had to find a chance to run away alone. As long as he could run from Tang Xiu, in such a big world, he could go anywhere. If they were to die here, it wouldn't be too late to take out revenge and wipe out this grudge toward Tang Xiu later, after he had mixed with other powerful people. Bang! 10 meters away from the three, a sound transmitted from the car parts pile mess. Over there. Their complexion changed, and they turned extremely alert. Their eyes locked onto the sound source. One-Eyed braved himself and hinted his two other companions as he walked to the side, whilst his left hand held the three-bladed army knife as he walked over to the sound's direction. They didn't notice that a pair of eyes were preying on them behind the two car frames 10 meters in front of them. Eldest brother One-Eyed, 2 fists cannot win against 4 hands. We have 3 knives and 2 guns. Even though that brat is powerful, he's not our match. The burly man's complexion was ferocious as a terrifying murderous intent was exuded from him, as though it was able to suck and devour souls. Amongst all of them, he was the one who had the most powerful fighting prowess. However, the moment he just finished speaking, a figure suddenly appeared lightning fast. The shadow swiftly and fiercely rushed and kicked him from the side. The strong guy lifted his left arm reflexively to block it as a bone-cracking sound was then heard. At the same time, a dagger moved in a strange trajectory and pierced his left arm's armpit. Ah! A shrill scream, that could make people's blood run cold, howled. A strong murderous intent was exuded from Tang Xiu. His hand-to-hand combat and its process was extremely sharp and skillful. He pulled out the knife from the strong guy's armpit in a flash and powerfully punched the strong guy's body, as it flew straight toward the one-eyed man and the transvestite. Fuck. One-Eye's complexion changed greatly as he frantically tried to avoid get hit by the strong guy's body. He brandished his army knife and ferociously stabbed Tang Xiu. He didn't have the assurance to block Tang Xiu's piercing blow, but he believed that as long as he could tangle Tang Xiu, the transvestite would shoot Tang Xiu with the gun. Bang bang bang. The transvestite indeed shot at Tang Xiu. But it was a hasty shot and was easily dodged by Tang Xiu. Never once the one-eyed man ever thought that the transvestite man would swiftly run toward the door and run after shooting, leaving him behind. Tang Xiu's unpredictable moves and elusiveness as well as his violent killing, left him a huge mental dread. Youngest sister, you. Previously, taking advantage of Tang Xiu's dodging movements to avoid the bullet, the one-eyed man burst forward in a flash. But never once he ever dreamed that his sworn brother would abandon him and flee alone. At this very moment, his hate toward the transvestite who betrayed and left him alone was much more than the hate he had toward Tang Xiu. Tang Xiu also hadn't thought that the transvestite would choose to run away at this time. If he didn't run, it would have been more difficult to deal with these three. But now. Tang Xiu coldly smiled. He quickly knocked down the already severely hit strong guy and the one-eyed man with fast and powerful strikes, leaving them with fatal injuries. He must not escape. Tang Xiu kicked the one-eyed man, making him faint. Then, he rushed forward and chased the runaway transvestite. In his spiritual sense, the transvestite man had already run about 50 to 60 meters ahead and was not too far away. He sprinted and chased. The distance between them was getting closer. The transvestite, who was running ahead, turned his head in panic as an aghast expression could be seen on his face when he saw Tang Xiu's extreme speed. At the same time, he also cursed the 2 useless people who didn't even give decent resistance. The car. His eyes turned bright. He suddenly rushed forward, toward the Volkswagen. After he quickly entered the car, he immediately started it and locked the car's door.
Bye. Bye.
As the car started, the transvestite laughed in a provocative manner toward Tang Xiu. Humph. Tang Xiu coldly snorted and threw the dagger in a flash. With 1,500 kilograms of arm strength, the dagger pierced through the glasses in front of the driver's seat and accurately hit the transvestite's neck. Bang. The Volkswagen had already started, but since the transvestite was hit, the car drove forward and hit a pickup truck. I told you that you cannot run. Tang Xiu sprinted toward the Volkswagen's driving seat as he grabbed the transvestite's hair. He forced his head out of the window and then fiercely punched his face. Having finished the transvestite, Tang Xiu directly returned to the warehouse garage. Although he already solved those criminals, but he needed the information from them about the cop snitch in Public Security Bureau, who had informed their gang. Don't struggle. Today, you die. The only difference is if you can have a happy death or get tortured to death. I believe you've long known that you'll die. So I will give you a last choice before you enter the gates of hell. The strong guy let out a mirthless smile as he looked at the wound on his body and spoke, You wanna King torture me to death? CK, I have a fatal injury, even if you want, cough, you'll never King be able to prolong the time. Don't CK with me. Tang Xiu squinted his eyes as his finger pointed at the spot near the strong guy's wound in a flash. What the? The strong guy's eyes got bigger as his face turned aghast. His wound no longer bled after Tang Xiu used his finger to point at the spot near his wound a few times. Tang Xiu coldly spoke, Even if you don't believe me, I'll make you believe it. You won't die quickly. At least, you can still live 1 or 2 hours. In these 2 hours, I'll dissect you and keep your consciousness intact. You'll witness your blood and flesh reduced part by part. The strong guy desperately swallowed saliva as he spoke in a flabbergasted expression, that finger point technique. What the hell are you? Tang Xiu replied, Huh? I didn't expect you even knew about the finger point technique. The strong guy coughed some blood, and with a somewhat odd expression in his eyes, he replied, My boxing master some time ago practiced kung fu. Although his skills were not as terrifying as the legend, but it was quite powerful. The King thing was that he didn't want to teach me that internal strength cultivation technique. Why? Tang Xiu's curiosity was piqued. The strong guy bitterly replied, What else? That old chap thought that my conducts are bad, vicious, and ruthless. But how the CK will I survive and make my name in this brutal environment if I'm not ruthless enough? Bad conduct? Tang Xiu suddenly realized. This was indeed the case with martial arts practitioners on Earth. The society didn't allow martial artists to fight ruthlessly. However, he didn't have the same principle. The immortal world's circumstances were countless of times more brutal than Earth's. It was inhuman in the truest essence. Only ones with sufficient strength and ruthlessness would be able to survive and go on living there. He had stepped on mountains of corpses and gone through countless bloodshed to become one of the supremes in the immortal world. Back to my question. Tell me, who is your gang snitch in the Public Security Bureau? Relax, my words have always had enormous weight. As long as you tell the truth, I won't let you suffer. With a dejected expression, the strong guy replied, The winner has always been the king. Since I've lost to you, I'll tell you. But you have to promise me one thing. Tang Xiu replied indifferently, You are not qualified to talk about conditions with me. The strong guy spoke straightforwardly, If you want to kill me, just kill me, you have that chance. But at least hear me before I die, so I have no grievance over life and die peacefully. Tang Xiu frowned. He did not want to waste time here. Zhao Jing had been saved, and he believed that she had reported to the police. It wouldn't be a long time that a large number of police would rush to this place. After returning to this world, he was perfectly aware that murders are against the law, even though it was done to save others. Even though the people he killed were extremely evil and law's heavy offenders, but he still would be implicated, and it would give him much trouble. Say your conditions. Tang Xiu replied indifferently. With a bitter and astringent expression, he spoke, actually, it's not a condition. It's just my request. Eldest brother One-Eyed and I are the same, we are fated to be doomed. But when we die, I hope that when you have some time later, you can go north, to the eldest brother's grandma is still alive there and is also his only family member now. Tang Xiu said, and what you want me to do? I have stashed more than tens of thousands in cash. If you meet One-Eye's grandma, give it to her. I give you my word. Tang Xiu nodded. Humans have always been two-sided in nature. Regardless of any person, whether they were ruthless and evil in their entire lives, they would still have a soft spot deep down inside. Such as himself, he had killed countless people to the extent that he even could be called as cold-blooded slaughterer. But the one he was most worried and missed was his mother. The strong guy then nodded heavily. Li Tao, our snitch in the Public Security Bureau Information Section, Li Tao. Tang Xiu no longer talked. He took the Mitsubishi Army knife on the ground and directly gave the strong guy a happy quick death. Then, he woke One-Eyed up. You, what the F***ck are you? One-Eyed woke up from his fainted condition. He then saw that the strong guy had died as the transvestite's corpse that had been thrown aside. His heart instantly fell down to the abyss as it chilled down to the extreme. Tang Xiu spoke, tell me, who is your snitch in the Public Security Bureau? Extreme hatred filled One-Eye's eyes as he roared crazily, find him in your F***king dream. Hell no will I tell you. You just F***king wait. Even though we have died, we'll find everything possible to have our revenge. Sooner or later this debt of blood will be paid with your life. Tang Xiu spoke coldly, Northern Phoenix City, your grandmother. What? One-Eyed looked at Tang Xiu with a disbelieving expression as tidal waves of fear struck all the nerves in his body. Nobody in his gang knew about his grandmother, except. But how the fuck did this bastard in front of him know about it? You, what the hell are you? Are you a human or a ghost? With a ruminating expression, Tang Xiu smiled at One-Eyed and then spoke, even if ghosts have gone to heaven, if I wanted to, I can still exterminate those ghosts. Chapter 62, Good News. Star City Golden Emperor, Villa District. Yuan Jingshuan's complexion was gloomy as anxiety and restlessness filled his heart. Zhao Jing had been kidnapped for a long time and the danger was getting bigger. He hated those kidnappers as well as hated the incompetence he and the police had. Not even the slightest hints could be found regarding Zhao Jing's whereabouts. He had confirmed that his wife's kidnappers were in the same group with the crazy murderer who hijacked Star City First High School. He also had correctly guessed that they kidnapped his wife for revenge. Xiao Ling, can you contact your classmate? Yuan Zhengxian looked at his son, who repeatedly dialed the phone, and asked with a deep and worried expression. With a bitter expression and tone, Yuan Chuling shook his head, I can't contact him. He shut his phone down. Dad, Tang Xiu had left school at almost precisely the same time as Mom got kidnapped. Do you think there could be any coincidence about it? Yuan Zhengxian was still silent. But then his vision shifted over to Public Security Bureau's Director Deng Jianmin and the Criminal Police's Captain Cheng Xueme, who still had yet to leave. The possibility is very slim. Zhao Jing was kidnapped near her office, as at that time Tang Xiu was still studying at school. The distance between the two places is about tens of kilometers away. Unless Tang Xiu has foresight, else it would be almost impossible that the event has any connection to Zhao Jing's kidnapping. Besides, he's just only a high schooler. With a deep and low voice, Deng Jianmin replied. Yuan Zhengxian then spoke, but Tang Xiu is also missing. Have the police looked for him? He has been missing for 2 to 3 days, and you haven't found him, right? Cheng Xueme replied, this is indeed very strange. We have sent someone to his home and inquired about it. He hasn't come back home, even his mother doesn't know his whereabouts. Ring ring ring. Yuan Jingshuan's phone suddenly rang. His complexion changed as he ran over the coffee table and grabbed his phone. Seeing an unfamiliar phone number, he suddenly frowned. Answer it. Deng Jianmin quickly followed and spoke. Yuan Jingxian pressed the answer button and activated the loudspeaker mode. He then spoke in a deep tone, I'm Yuan Jingxian, who is this? Husband, it's me, Zhao Jing. Yuan Jingshuan's eyes instantly contracted as he cried loudly, what? Jing? Are you really Jing? Where are you? Tell me quickly. Husband, I am on the cab right now and am rushing to your house. I'm using the cab driver's phone. Jing, you. Did those kidnappers release you? Do you know that I was almost driven crazy worrying about you? Husband, those damned kidnappers didn't release me. There is someone else who rescued me. Yes, quickly send people to the abandoned auto repair garage on the deep red cloud road in peaceful Serene district. My savior is still there. Also, don't call the cops yet, my savior said that there's a snitch in the police station. Deng Jianmin and Cheng Xueme gasped. Their eyes showed a hard-to-believe expression. There was a snitch in the police station? How could this be? Suddenly, they realized that those criminals were able to get news ahead of time when the police were hunting them, since they had always been able to escape before the police arrived. Could it be that there really was a mole in the police station? Yuan Jingxian glared angrily at Deng Jianmin and Cheng Xueme. He then spoke in deep and angered tone, I'll immediately inform everyone to rush to that auto repair garage. Jing, you're on the cab, right? Where's your position right now? Tell me your plate number, I'll send someone. No. I'll go myself to pick you up. Good. The call ended. Yuan Jingxian angrily spoke, you cops are really damn F***king great. You even have a mole and traitor amongst you. You're a damn F***king model of this country's internal affairs employees. You heard my wife speaking. I don't want your F***king cops to follow me. I'll send my own men to solve the problem in that auto repair garage. No. A burst of colors alternating between green and white covered Deng Jianmin's complexion, but he still spoke with a strong tone. With a hesitating expression, Cheng Xueme quickly spoke when she saw that Yuan Jingxian was on the verge of raging, Mr. Yuan, since the situation at that auto repair garage is truly urgent and critical, it would be for the best for the police force to act. Those kidnappers are not people we could play with easily. All of them are A-ranked wanted criminals. Each and every one of them is a bloody murderer. My criminal police squad had been tracking and investigating the case for a few years. Besides, each and every one of us is an elite with clean records. We absolutely have no traitors in our ranks. How about having us help you to solve this problem? Yuan Jingxian hesitated for a moment before he nodded and replied, fine. But apart from you, not even a soul could learn about this. Deng Jianmin hurriedly followed, I'll also go. At the abandoned auto repair garage on Deep Red Cloud Road, peaceful Serene district. Tang Xiu was still in the warehouse as he looked at the ashen expression of the dying one-eyed man. He coldly spoke, I've given you the chance to speak. Now, you tell me or face the consequences. The one-eyed man was silent. He did not want to sell out his brother. He hoped and looked forward to avenging his brothers and wiping off these grudges. However, he was also perfectly aware that the youth in front of him was very ruthless and merciless. If he didn't tell him, his grandmother would be implicated. He was raised by his grandmother, and she was the person he most cared about. What should he do? With such a dilemma, a battle raged in his heart as he fell into deep hesitation. I will count down from 3. If you don't want to answer my question, it's your choice, since I have given you the options. Of course, I have to tell you that your dead brother had already told me who the snitch in the police station is. I just want to confirm it from your King mouth. Tang Xiu's words were as though a gigantic hammer had smashed a layer of conviction in One-Eye's heart. 3, 2, 1. Okay, I'll tell you. Pain stabbed One-Eye's heart, but he still chose to protect his grandmother in the final moment. Tang Xiu coldly spoke, who is it? One-Eye gritted his teeth and spoke, it's Li Tao, and he's the deputy chief of the Public Security Bureau Information Section. It's really him. Tang Xiu sneered. He slit One-Eye's throat with the Mitsubishi Army knife and pierced his heart. After he killed One-Eye, he dug out the hole in the most corner side of the wall, as he then took a plastic bag full of paper money and directly left. In fact, had these criminals not threatened him, he was disinclined to clean them up. But since Yuan Chuling's mother was kidnapped, he definitely had to act. However, the most important thing to do for him right now was to make money. He needed to cultivate himself, and this required a lot of medicinal herbs, resources, and precious ores. Only when he had massive wealth would he be able to buy these essential necessities and prevent his cultivation advancement from being bogged down. As for the plan to make money, he had already planned about it. The aspect he was lacking right now was that he had no professional manager to handle the business. However, he had entrusted it to Long Zhengyu to find him a professional manager. And by calculating the time, it was almost time that Long Zhengyu found the right professional manager for him. Half an hour later, Tang Xiu took off his blood-stained jacket and threw it to the river he passed by, as he watched it get washed and drowned by river water. He didn't return to the school and instead went back to his villa in the Southgate town district. When Tang Xiu had entered the villa's center hall, dust had covered it. He recalled that when he just received this villa, the developer was taking care of the villa's cleanness. However, since he became the owner, the developer stopped taking care of the villa and also had no rights to send people to clean it again. Such a big villa like this, even if I were to look for a maid, I can tell that one wouldn't be enough. Should I look for a professional butler to take care of this house just like in those TV series? Tang Xiu smiled wryly and shook his head. He didn't have the luxury to hire a professional butler or housekeeper. He went straight upstairs and took a bath, and then took and wore a clean set of casual wears in the wardrobe that Long Zhengyu had already prepared in advance before. The villa's main room was on the second floor. The entire master bedroom was hundreds of square feet big, and the interior decorations were full of luxurious stuff that could even make people's blood boil. He hadn't had a good rest these days and was preparing to rest. However, he wanted to contact Long Zhengyu and ask about the professional manager arrangement. The moment he thought to call Long Zhengyu, he recalled that his cell phone had long been shut down. He quickly took out the phone and booted it. He had yet to call Long Zhengyu's number as series of missed calls and SMS reminder rang unceasingly. Tang Xiu recalled the scene of large numbers of missed calls when he had gone practicing before. He didn't expect that it would happen again in this time. He glanced over at the missed call and couldn't help revealing a helpless look. Apart from Han Qingwu and Long Zhengyu's number, there was also several unfamiliar numbers of which also had called him for tens of times. Huh? Yuan Chuling even called me 42 times? It seems he already knew that his mother was kidnapped and perhaps had already guessed that I was gone from school, and was connected with his mother's kidnapping. Tang Xiu thought for a moment before he decided not to call Yuan Chuling temporarily. He had rescued his mother, and there should be no more incidents. As for Han Qingwu, who had been used and deceived, she was perhaps furious and wished to find and ruthlessly bash him. She also didn't need to be contacted for a while. Half a minute later, Tang Xiu dialed Long Zhengyu's number. Big Brother Long, it's Tang Xiu. Sorry for troubling you, how's the professional manager hunt?
Ah.
Little brother Tang, I never thought that you would take the initiative to contact me. I've called you for a few times, but you shut your phone down. The professional manager I'll be recommending to you is a bit special. Do you have the time to meet in person? Long Zhengyu's tone was somewhat spirited, as though he had found something good. Special? A surprised expression flashed in Tang Xiu's eyes as he then slowly spoke, well, let's meet then. Where are you now? I'll rush over to your place. Long Zhengyu laughed, I am in the Southgate town's real estate management office. Tang Xiu said, okay, 10 minutes. After hanging up the phone, Tang Xiu hesitated for a while and dialed another number. It was an unfamiliar number, but this was the number that had called him the most times. Hello, are you Tang Xiu? The call was picked up. A woman's voice hastily transmitted before Tang Xiu was even able to speak. Yes, it's me. Who is this speaking? Chapter 63, The Slaughterhouse. A somewhat delightful and a bit hurried voice was then transmitted through the phone. I am Chang Xueme, Public Security Bureau, Star City's Criminal Division. Tang Xiu, where are you now? I need to see you. Chang Xueme? Tang Xiu secretly let out a forced smile. He already knew that the Public Security Bureau would pay attention had those criminals been dealt with. But he had never thought that the one who would find him would be Chang Xueme. However, he didn't want to deal with anyone from the Public Security Bureau, so he had already prepared a countermeasure beforehand. Officer Chang, do you have something to ask me? I am very busy recently. If there is no particularly important thing, I don't want to be disturbed. Tang Xiu probed for something he had already known. It is very important. Chang Xueme's tone increased a bit. Tang Xiu replied, then you can come to the Southgate town.
Ah.
Right. I just came out from my house and now I'm about to meet a friend at the real estate management office. Southgate town. Your house. An exclamation was transmitted from the phone. Chang Xueme was surprised. Tang Xiu secretly laughed in his heart. He was aware that Chang Xueme must have investigated his background. But she apparently had never thought that he could have a house in Southgate town. What is it? Is there any problem? No, this. I'll catch up with you later. At the peaceful serene district, Deep Red Cloud Road. A few cars rushed over and stopped at an abandoned auto repair garage. In one of the police cars, Chang Xueme, who sat in the co-pilot seat, hung up the phone with a stunned expression. She suddenly realized that her investigation toward Tang Xiu seemed to have missed some very important things. What is it? Dang Jianmin, who sat on the back seat, was keenly aware of Chang Xueme's unusual expression as he asked her. Chang Xueme turned her head as she frowned for a moment before speaking. Tang Xiu called me. He said that he was at home in Southgate town. Southgate town. I've read Tang Xiu's investigation data. How could he possibly have a house in the Southgate town? The people living there are the most wealthy and respectable people in Star City. Dang Jianmin's body suddenly sat straight stiff as a disbelieving expression suddenly filled his eyes. Chang Xueme smiled and said, I'm also clueless about this. Dang Jianmin heaved a deep breath as he spoke in a deep tone, we'll take care of the auto repair garage first. After we handle it, you immediately go to the Southgate town and see Tang Xiu. Do remember to clearly investigate his situation thoroughly. Yes, sir. Chang Xueme nodded. Shortly after, a few cars broke into the abandoned auto repair garage. Dang Jianmin and Chang Xueme led the other 7 or 8 SWAT elites, as more than 10 experts under Yuan Jingxian also got off quickly. They found the Volkswagen that had its front glass already broken and had hit the pickup truck, as bloodstains could be seen on the driver's seat. There was a fight here. With her vast investigation experience, Chang Xueme could decisively make a correct judgment. Dang Jianmin nodded as he saw that the SWAT team's members had pulled their guns. He then issued a command with a gloomy expression, "Take a look inside. Do be very careful. Those criminals must be apprehended. If necessary, kill on sight." "Yes." The SWAT team's members shouted in unison. Chang Xueme was adventurous and brave in nature. She was well known as the daring female officer who dares to risk life. Under her leadership, everyone quickly hid and protected each other and rushed toward the warehouse. Blood smell? The complexion of a SWAT member with a very sensitive nose suddenly changed. Shortly after, when Chang Xueme and the other squad members rushed into the warehouse, the scene instantly made them stupefied. 3 corpses were lying in a pool of blood in the middle of the warehouse. One of the corpses was stabbed with a Mitsubishi Army knife, as guns and other knives were also there. Chang Xueme quickly identified the dead bodies. She was shocked after she found that these people were all A-ranked criminals in the wanted list, the very targets of the operation. "Captain, there's something in the next room," one of the cops shouted. Chang Xueme was startled as she ran straight toward the next room. The moment she had just entered the dissection room, her head was struck by huge waves caused by the situation in front of her. The room was full of torturing and dissecting devices and reeked with a thick scent of blood. Blood could be seen on the ground, the wall, and basically everywhere. The scene that made her aghast was the 2 dead bodies laid on the floor soaked in a pool of blood. The 2 dead men's bodies were also A-ranked wanted criminals. Dead? Are they all dead? Chang Xueme's body was dead stiff, as her eyes contracted, and body turned sluggish. She came here and was ready to have a combat and fight, even had the conviction to sacrifice herself. Each and every one of these criminals were after all human organ traffickers as well as bloody vicious and merciless murderers. Solely relying on their SWAT detachment as well as Yuan Jingshuan's men, there would still be casualties had they fought these criminals. However, how could this scene happen? Suddenly, Chang Xueme recalled Xiao Jing's words from the call before. Could it be that the one who killed these criminals was the youth that had saved Xiao Jing? Who could he be? Tang Shou? "Captain, what should we do now?" One of the cops swallowed his saliva and solemnly asked. She took a deep breath and suppressed the shock in her heart before she replied, "Take care to protect the crime scene here and collect important clues. Although these criminals are truly damned and evil, but still they deserve to be judged under the legal law, and not be punished by some unknown vigilantes. We should find that vigilante." "Yes, ma'am." The SWAT members respectfully nodded. Dang Jianmin also rushed to the dissecting room afterward. But when he saw the scene inside the room, the shock he got was almost impossible to be conveyed with words. He had been in the force for more than a decade, and had seen numerous types of cases. But never once did he ever encounter such a situation like now. "Director Dang, Captain Cheng, we found a cellar in the vicinity. There are a lot of dead bodies inside. We're now conducting an inspection there." "What have you found?" Dang Jianmin's expression immediately changed. Half a minute later, they saw the cellar near the warehouse. After they counted, there were 23 corpses with their internal organs completely removed. "Is this a fucking slaughterhouse?" Dang Jianmin's face turned deathly pale. He knew he was ruined. Such a big case happened in his city's jurisdiction meant that his career would come to an abrupt end. His complexion turned a few years older in a flash. Chang Xueme had never thought that she would see so many dead bodies, and quickly conveyed her orders, "Contact intelligence officers. Compile information related to people who were missing recently and send them to my phone." "Wait, stop." Dang Jianmin's heart was in a mess, but he still didn't lose his mind as he immediately shouted and stopped them. Chang Xueme was confused. Director Deng, what are you? Deng Jianmin replied with a cloudy expression and spoke, have you forgotten the call from Zhao Jing? If we do really have moles in our ranks, once you passed this news, it would alert them. We'll investigate this case ourselves by any means necessary and also drag those moles out of their holes. Understood. Chang Xueme nodded. A pondering expression flashed in Deng Jianmin's eyes before he spoke in a deep tone, today's situation is too unusual. Now, go to Southgate Town to see Tang Shou. Leave this place to me. Do bear in mind that you must figure out by any means the reason why he was missing recently, and his alibi today. Yes. Chang Xueme complied. But when she had just walked for a few steps she suddenly stopped. Director Deng, don't we have to report the case first? Deng Jianmin's expression changed as he probed, your meaning? Chang Xueme replied, you are the bureau director. Our squad members thought that under your leadership we have succeeded in cracking a lot of important cases. This? Deng Jianmin's heart moved. If he was to report truthfully, the consequences would be grave. It would shame and crack open the police's honor and reputation. However, if he changed the report's contents that he personally led the investigation and cracked the case, perhaps, the aftermath would be favorable. Then the ones who killed them. Chang Xueme was silent. She was perfectly aware of the meaning of Deng Jianmin's words. Once the report's contents were changed, it meant that the true killer would be concealed. Truthfully speaking, she really admired the hero who had enforced the justice under the heavenly law. These abominable criminals who mutilated the victims and traded their internal organs truly deserved to be killed, but the legal laws. Director Deng, these people are truly evil. Another police officer's tone spoke in a somewhat agitated expression as he spoke in a tone full of deep hatred. Chang Xueme's eyes swept his face and then fell onto the dead body that was being carried. Her heart steeled and spoke in a solemn tone, true, they are not human. Deng Jianmin's lips twitched a few times before he spoke with great difficulty, thank you. The Southgate Town's real estate management office was located in the central area of the entire district. It was a two-story building with Western-style architecture that covered the area of 2,000 square meters. The office had no fence and was guarded with stern and solemn security guards at the post guard. Neat flower beds were arranged in the courtyard as numerous colorful red and purple flowers were planted on it. At one side, a few large sun umbrellas were placed along with tables and chairs underneath. Long Zhengyu was smiling and looked at the direction of the main villa's direction from time to time. A handsome youth sat in front of him as one of his legs was on top of the one with a cigarette in his lips. His manners were aloof and arrogant as a middle-aged man with glasses and holding a suitcase stood beside him. Young Master Long, who is the respected friend of yours that you've been waiting for? He's even worth your waiting? Gu Yutao was feeling uncomfortable. Long Zhengyu originally accompanied him to look at the villa's information in Southgate Town, as he planned to buy a villa after having gotten the information. However, after Long Zhengyu got a phone call from someone and then waited for him personally, it made him and the others stunned. A loathing expression flashed in Long Zhengyu's eyes before he solemnly spoke, he is my friend, and also our Long family's benefactor. I also must add that if anyone dares to offend him, then it's equal to offending our Long family also. Gu Yutao was startled and quickly restrained the ill-felt mood he had. Although he was proud and arrogant, but he didn't dare to show it off in front of Long Zhengyu, because he was perfectly aware of Long Zhengyu's identity, as well as the Long family's power. Chapter 64, Provocation. The desire for wealth had crossed the flow of time and ages as the power of money was the main drive that composed the sonata of desires in a human's heart. People might say that everyone was born equal, but once one had achieved a certain level in life, they would come to the truest understanding that the world was divided into classes. Although Gu Yutao was not at the top of the pyramid's food chain, but he was the only party municipal first secretary's son, so he also aware about this truth. He couldn't help but probe as he whispered, "Young Master Long seems to pay a lot of attention to this friend of yours. He must be a big shot, right? Is it possible for you to introduce me to him?" Long Zhengyu nodded. He had long known about Gu Yuedao's behavior and was very clear about his conduct. Relying on his father's influence, Gu Yutao had been running rampant in Star City. He could be described as arrogant, bossy, and frivolous. He had done numerous bad conducts in the recent years, people even lost count of it. Had it not been for his father cleaning up his mess, he would perhaps have to spend his life in prison. He came. 7 or 8 minutes later, Long Zhengyu was happy as he immediately got up and walked forward to greet Tang Xiu. Big brother Long. A strange, funny, and amused feeling filled Tang Xiu's heart. If his 10,000 years of life was to be counted, he was an old Gu monster. But he called a mere slightly over 20-year-old youngster big brother. Long Zhengyu laughed, "Little brother Tang, you're one of the people that is even more difficult to meet than ascending to heaven. Long Jinglin has been calling for so many times, but you have never answered his call even once." With a somewhat apologizing expression, Tang Xiu replied,
Ah.
"I'm really sorry. I don't have a habit of using my cell phone. Not to mention that the battery runs out and I can't find it. Anyways, who's this?" Long Zhengyu glanced at Gu Yutao and answered, "He's Gu Yutao, my friend. The reason I came to Southgate Town is also because my friend wants to sell his villa, and Gu Yutao is the one who wants to buy it. So I came over and lent a hand." Tang Xiu suddenly realized as he nodded at Gu Yutao, and then asked, "I didn't disturb you, did I?" Long Zhengyu laughed, "It's fine." Gu Yutao had never once expected that the very friend that Long Zhengyu had paid a lot of attention to would be a youngster. Although he also could tell that this youngster had an extraordinary bearing, however, he couldn't help but feel contempt inside. He only casually nodded and asked, "Little brother Tang seems very young. What's your respected occupation?" "Little brother Tang?" Tang Xiu's brows slightly slanted as he couldn't help but feel slightly cold toward Gu Yutao. He could accept Long Zhengyu calling him Little Brother Tang, since he had quite a friendship with him, as well as for the sake of Long Jinglin. But Gu Yuedao's look toward him was focused on his surface appearance, and he spoke with such frivolous words and tone, giving him an ill of feeling. "Student." Considering Long Zhengyu's face, Tang Xiu replied him with an indifferent tone and spoke thoughtlessly. Gu Yutao was also keenly aware of Tang Xiu's attitude. Anger suddenly rose in his heart. However, since he had yet to know Tang Xiu's real identity, he was still able to patiently tolerate it, and didn't rage out. He then spoke lightly, "Little brother Tang, since young Master Long has acknowledged you as a friend, you should have a very big background, shouldn't you?" Background? Coldness flashed in Tang Xiu's eyes now. He was a cultivator in the immortal world and had killed countless of arrogant young masters because he had a deep disgust about those young masters with a background. As the saying goes, someone who only relied on their parents, never once will they be able to become a real man. One could only be a real man if they were tempered with tribulations and constantly strived to improve themselves. Their fighting spirit wouldn't flinch even if they had to go against the heavens. Besides, if someone respected him for an inch, he would him 10 inches of respect. Rarely would Tang Xiu take the initiative to provoke others, but if others provoked him, he had always been ready to pay the blood with blood and exchange a tooth for a tooth. Hence, he chose to ignore this kind of chap at present. "Big brother Long, about that professional manager issue, is there something wrong?" Long Zhengyu was also angry seeing Gu Yuetao's attitude. However, he was a businessman and it was inevitable to have contacts and deals with people from the government. Not to mention that the Long family's businesses were quite large and inextricably linked with the government. Even if Gu Yuetao's father did not have real power, he still was the municipal level party's first secretary and had a special status, and was not someone who could easily be offended by many people. But since he saw Tang Xiu directly ignore Gu Yutao, he was also disinclined to pay attention anymore. He then looked at Tang Xiu and spoke, "There's nothing wrong, but I have something important to discuss with you." Then he asked Tang Xiu to sit down and continued, "A few days ago, my two good friends from Beijing came to my office. I heard from them that 3 years ago the gold-ranked professional manager, Kong Xia, who was working at the World Financial Center Wall Street, had come back and now has resigned from the Beijing's Peng Group. If you can go to Beijing and personally invite her." Kong Xia? Tang Xiu was confused. Is this person really good? She's great. Long Zhengyu replied with a serious expression. The middle-aged man's complexion who stood beside Gu Yutao changed. He then spoke, "Kong Xia is good? She's a legend in the business circles. She has successfully managed a lot of acquisition and financial mergers, developed a lot of new projects as well as established a lot of marketing channels. She has an undisputable reputation, and is very famous in Wall Street. 3 years ago, she returned to our country and was hired by the Peng Group as a CEO with an enormous contract price. In less than 3 years, she successfully increased the Peng Group's total assets 4 times over from before. If it were not because of that idiot second young master Peng, the Peng Group would perhaps have been able to enter into the top 50 enterprises in our country in the next few years." Speaking up to there, the middle-aged man then revealed a contemptuous look and sneered, "Even the country's major enterprises tried with everything they have to hire Kong Xia, which even some of them came up and offered large company stocks, but unfortunately all had failed. Little brother is this young, I think you see yourself too highly. Kong Xia has been ignoring those high-class people, could she possibly take you seriously?" Tang Xiu was silent for a few seconds as he then looked at Long Zhengyu and spoke, "Give me her contact." "Okay." A different light emerged in Long Zhengyu's eyes. He had an inexplicable sense of trust toward Tang Xiu after having experienced the last gamble event. Others might have no chance, but he believed that Tang Xiu could make the difference and give him a big surprise. After he gave Kong Xia's number to Tang Xiu, Long Zhengyu suddenly spoke, "Little brother Tang, can I buy the shares for the company you want to set up? I'll provide 20 million yuan to buy the stocks you provide." Buying shares? Tang Xiu's brow slightly wrinkled. Long Zhengyu quickly said, "If you think the money is too few, I'll add more. Little brother Tang, you haven't ran any businesses before, there are a lot of things you have yet to know. A wide range of problems need to be managed in running businesses. The Long family has long been running businesses in Star City, and I can help solve a lot of things for the company you will set up in Star City." Tang Xiu took a deep look at Long Zhengyu's eyes before he nodded and said, 5% shares. You cannot have more than that. If Kong Xia comes and she doesn't know about the situation here, you help her. At this moment, Tang Xiu had known about Long Zhengyu's goodwill and he had a favorable impression of him. About the cosmetics business he was about to set up, he only told Long Zhengyu and didn't tell him any details. But Long Zhengyu trusted him wholeheartedly, and this made his heart warm. With a strange expression, Gu Yutao observed Long Zhengyu and sneered, "Young Master Long, you really have the wealth to burn, eh? How could you be this happy to foolishly spendthrift your money? 20 million in funds for a mere 5% share? And you have to establish the connection and relations also? Have you really lost your mind? This kid said that he would be able to invite Kong Xia, how could it be possible relying on him only? Does he think that he's the country's first leader descendant?" Long Zhengyu's face turned cold as he replied with a disgusted tone, "Whether I'm crazy or not, you'll find about it later." Tin tin tin. At this time, the car's horn sounded. 2 black Mercedes-Benz limousines slowly approached and then stopped nearby, as 2 middle-aged men then got off. When they saw Long Zhengyu amongst the people, they suddenly smiled and then approached. "Dad, how come you came over?" Long Zhengyu approached and greeted him as he asked with a curious expression. Long Hanwen's vision swept toward Tang Xiu and Gu Yutao as he then laughed and spoke, I'm free today, so I came with your Uncle Li to drink. Long Jiangyu quickly turned toward the other middle-aged man and greeted, Uncle Li, how have you been? He laughed and replied, Little you, you're good. Recently, I heard that you've performed a major achievement and put a few other youths in Star City into a miserable state. A tiger father indeed wouldn't beget a dog son. With a humble smile, Long Jiangyu replied, Uncle Li overpraised me. Actually, the one who has to be credited in winning the gamble is my brother. Dad, I introduce you Tang Xiu. Long Hanwen slightly squinted his eyes as he sized up Tang Xiu a few times. He then nodded and spoke, as the saying goes, heroes emerge amongst the youth. Tang Xiu, you're really amazing, good, very good. Later, when you have time, I'll ask Little You and Lin to take you to our home. Your aunt will prepare a delicious meal for you. Tang Xiu nodded, well, thanks Uncle Long. Long Hanwen nodded with satisfaction. Long Jiangyu then spoke, Dad, Tang Xiu is preparing to set up a company and I want to buy some of the shares. Setting up a company? Injecting funds and buying the shares? Long Hanwen looked at Tang Xiu with an astonished expression. He had investigated Tang Xiu's background and knew that this youth came from the countryside. He did not have much capital to boast and was only a high schooler. Now he wanted to set up a company. Could it be that he wanted to make some pocket money? Long Hanwen thought for a moment before he smiled and replied, then buy the shares. Even though Tang Xiu is still young, but I can tell he's very mature and has a steady nature. He would be a competent and important big shot in the future. Well, you'll arrange it and have a good chat. Wait. Tang Xiu felt somewhat of favorable impression toward Long Hanwen even though they only had a brief contact. The saying was indeed true that a good father would raise outstanding sons. Long Jiangyu was outstanding and his father was also excellent. Befriending Long Hanwen might help in completing his plan and purposes later. Long Hanwen was confused, do you still have something to say? Tang Xiu gently nodded as his eyes fell on another middle-aged man's body, who was called Uncle Chen. He found that this middle-aged man named Chen had a problem within his body. After having carefully observed, he could tell that his observation was true. Stretch out your wrist. The middle-aged man called Chen, as well as the other two, were clueless about it. He looked at Long Hanwen and Long Jiangyu first, but although he was puzzled by Tang Xiu's purpose, he still extended his left hand out. Under the gazes of everyone who looked at him with a puzzled expression, Tang Xiu checked the middle-aged Chen's pulse. 10 seconds later, his fingers pressed the Tanzhong point and then spoke in a deep tone, try to breathe. Chapter 65, Condition. Endless Virtue Pharmaceutical was a leading major enterprise in Star City, and its main business was the medical industry. It was one of the best companies in the medical business nationwide. Chen Zhizhong was the Endless Virtue Pharmaceutical's big boss with assets worth more than several billion yuan, and also had a prominent status. He looked at Tang Xiu in front of him as particular strange thoughts emerged inside his heart. This youngster wants to check my pulse? Is he a Chinese medical doctor? And how did he know that I have internal injuries? It's impossible. Apart from my wife, there is no other soul who would have known about it. It's impossible that he knows about it. Chen Zhizhong secretly shook his head and quickly cast out the absurd thoughts inside his mind. However, he looked at Long Hanwen's face and complied with Tang Xiu's request as he took a deep breath. Hiss. Piercing pain, as though it would rip his heart and lungs, came from his chest. The painful sensation instantly made his eyes blackened and almost made him faint. At the same time, he could clearly feel some kind of intense burning sensation, as though it was scorching his internal organs. Tang Xiu loosened his grip and spoke with a solemn expression, your internal injuries are very severe. It definitely couldn't have been inflicted by an average person, else your injuries couldn't have been severely injured like this. since your internal organs were likely to have been shattered. But I'm really curious, how come you're able to move around everywhere with such injuries? At the side. Even since the arrival of Long Hanwen and Chen Jizhong, Gu Yutao was cast aside. This kind of cold treatment made him feel especially uncomfortable. Coupled with the contempt Tang Xiu had given him, as well as seeing that the famous Long Hanwen highly praising Tang Xiu, envy and jealousy surged inside his heart. Seeing this opportunity, he shouted at once, "Tang Xiu! What have you done to Boss Chen? Are you acting like a deity and playing the devil to scam him? You're just swindler." Tang Xiu sneered, "Whether I'm a swindler or not, it's not yours to call. Mind your own business." You. Gu Yutao instantly raged. Tang Xiu interrupted him and coldly snorted, "What's up with me, huh? I'm speaking with others. You have no qualification to interrupt us. Either you move aside or get the fuck out." Gu Yuetao's face thoroughly turned crimson. If it were not for Long Hanwen and Chen Jizhong's presence, he could have been immediately flushed and beaten Tang Xiu. Chen Jizhong looked at Tang Xiu with an inconceivable expression. Along with the pain that was gradually receding from his chest, he asked with a shocked expression, "Who are you? How did you know that I have suffered from internal injuries, much less gotten injured by others?" Tang Xiu lightly replied, "Compared to you, I have received countless more serious injuries. My companion also, so I'm perfectly aware of the symptoms when someone has internal injuries. If I'm not mistaken, you definitely have taken precious medicaments, haven't you? Your injuries might have been temporarily suppressed, but after the medicine's efficacy has been completely dissipated and you don't take your medicaments for quite a while, your injuries would become more serious, even your life would be in a grave danger. Am I right?" Long Hanwen was shocked. "Brother Chen, you really have internal injuries? How could it be?" Chen Jizhong nodded with an agonized expression. He deeply looked at Tang Xiu and smiled, "Brother Long. This place is not a suitable place to chat. Let's find a quiet place to speak." Long Hanwen looked at Tang Xiu with a strange expression as he nodded and spoke, "Little Tang, let's go." "All right." Tang Xiu nodded and followed. When they were just about to walk out toward the real estate management office, Chen Jizhong suddenly stopped as he looked at Gu Yutao and spoke, "You are Secretary Gu's son, aren't you? We have important things to discuss and you're not fit for this occasion, so leave and take care of your own business." "Huh?" Gu Yuetao's complexion instantly turned crimson. Never once have he ever dreamt that Chen Jizhong would kick him out. Waves of regret struck his heart. Had he not jumped and attacked Tang Xiu with his words and instead flattered him, he wouldn't have been kicked out like this. Fuck. Damn bastard Tang Xiu. All of his resentment fell onto Tang Xiu. Gu Yutao was perfectly aware that he couldn't provoke the likes of big shots such as Long Hanwen and Chen Jizhong. But had Tang Xiu not appeared today, such a shameful situation wouldn't have happened. Even Long Hanwen and Chen Jizhong might say a few praises or encouragements to him. At the real estate management office. Inside a luxuriously decorated office, Long Zhengyu was busy making tea as Tang Xiu was sitting on the luxurious sofa facing Chen Jizhong and Long Hanwen. "Little brother Tang, since you can see my injury condition, are there any ways to treat them? I won't hide anything from you, my wife is also a Chinese medical doctor and is very skilled at it. But she also felt helpless in treating my internal injuries, and could only temporarily suppress the injuries as to avoid it from suddenly breaking out." A longing expression could be seen on Chen Jizhong's complexion as he intensely stared at Tang Xiu and asked. Tang Xiu replied, "Your treatment is very easy." "Really?" Chen Jizhong suddenly stood up and asked with a surprised expression. Tang Xiu nodded and said, "It's indeed very easy. I could give you the prescription to treat your internal injuries, I can even write out some of them easily. However, since your internal organs have long been injured, it has caused your blood and qi to be clogged, leading to the declining of your body's functions. Even if you took the medicine as per my prescription, it would take at least a year for you to recover to your previous condition. Chen Zhizhong was pleasantly surprised. The long time is fine, He abruptly stopped talking as his expression became sluggish for a moment. He was perfectly aware that due to his condition right now, he must keep calm and not lose himself and become too excited. However, I can give you a treatment that will only take a short time. Tang Xiu then spoke with self-confidence. Chen Zhizhong was silent for a moment before he seriously spoke. Under what conditions? Tang Xiu said, help me handle some things. Chen Zhizhong said, do say. As long as I can do it, I'll not refuse. Tang Xiu calmly replied, it's actually very simple. Help me lying to cover for some particular times in the past 2 to 3 days ago. You've come visiting me every day at my villa in Southgate Town. You must testify that I have always been at home here. Chen Zhizhong was surprised, only this issue? Yes. Tang Xiu nodded and said. Chen Zhizhong nodded, I give you my word. But can I ask, to whom I should testify? Tang Xiu said indifferently, the police. Chen Zhizhong was startled as a thoughtful expression flashed in his eyes, but he still didn't inquire further. Upon seeing the two of them had reached an agreement, Long Hanwen, who had been quietly listening to their conversation, suddenly saw Long Zhengyu as he then spoke in a deep tone, little you, go to the villa district monitoring room and erase all the surveillance recordings for the last few days. If anyone asks about it, tell them that the monitoring system is broken and is being repaired by the maintenance personnel. All right, I'll go right away. Long Zhengyu looked at Tang Xiu before he strode out of the room. Tang Xiu gazed at Long Zhengyu as he left as he nodded and thanked afterwards, I'll keep this big favor in mind. If later Uncle Long needs my assistance, please do tell me. Long Hanwen nodded with satisfaction, even though a trace of a particular strange feeling emerged in his heart. Today was the first time he saw Tang Xiu. Although his two sons highly praised Tang Xiu before, but he did not believe it. Tang Xiu was after all only a high schooler. Even though he was resourceful and powerful, to what extent did his capital amount to? However, seeing by himself was better than hearing from many others. It was a coincidence that he could see Tang Xiu today. Although Tang Xiu didn't speak much, however, he could tell from his words and performance that his calmness and bearing were not something some high schoolers could have. He even faintly felt a kind of imposing manner exude from Tang Xiu. He couldn't really tell what kind of sensation it was. It was as though the moon reflected on the water, but yet made him vigilant and constrained him. 18 years ago, Long Hanwen once had ran into someone. He looked like an ordinary person, but he gave off a dangerous feeling, as though he was a fierce beast in slumber in a deep dungeon. Later on, he found that the person was an active soldier, and that man was also coincidentally surnamed Tang. After having observed Tang Xiu for a few glances, Long Hanwen secretly suppressed that particular sensation down. He turned around and looked at Chen Zhizhong, Brother Chan, Tang Xiu just said that you've been injured by someone. What happened? How could there be someone who dares to injure you? Chen Zhizhong looked at Tang Xiu before he replied, letting out a forced smile, Brother Long, you only know me as a businessman, yet you don't know about my martial artist status. I'm a disciple of an ancient martial arts style. Only a selected few of ordinary people are able to contact our society. Tang Xiu suddenly spoke, your cultivation is very low. Although you are now much stronger than I am, however, a true martial arts master would very easily deal with you. Chen Zhizhong was greatly shocked, are you also a cultivator? It was Tang Xiu's first contact with the martial artists society, and he didn't hide his intention to pry the information about today's martial arts society situation from Chen Zhizhong. I am indeed a cultivator. But mine is different from your cultivation. Speaking the truth, I am honestly clueless about the present cultivator society. Could you enlighten me a bit? Chen Zhizhong replied, in fact, I also don't know much about it. Some are learning martial arts as continued tradition, some from family heritage, and others are from school's legacies. I only know a few martial artists from family heritages, in which some of them have reached grandmaster stage with bodies light like a swallow, and are able to fight buffaloes easily. A disappointed feeling surged in Tang Xiu's heart. What he wanted to know was not martial artists' society, but rather the cultivators' society. Those martial artists Grandmaster Chen Zhizhong spoke of were not different from children in a cultivator's eyes. Even a slightly powerful cultivator would easily exterminate those so-called martial artists' grandmasters. Afterward, Tang Xiu and Long Hanwen finally knew that the one who wounded Chen Zhizhong was a martial arts expert. It was caused by the incident when Chen Zhizhong and his opponent took a fancy over precious medicinal herbs at the Star City Medicinal Herbs Market. After fiercely competing through financial power, Chen Zhizhong finally won the precious herbs, while his opponent then secretly attempted to rob it. In the end, even though Chen Zhizhong was able to kill his opponent, he was also severely injured in the process. It's fine. Anyways, since I have other things to take care of, I'll treat your wound first. Uncle Long, I'm really sorry for troubling you to keep guard here and let nobody disturb us. Long Hanwen replied, saving someone is like fighting fire, the faster, the better. You can rest assured that I will immediately arrange people to guard the door and let nobody disturb you. Feeling satisfied, Tang Xiu nodded. He then told Chen Zhizhong to take his clothes off, leaving only his big underpants. He ignored the awkward and embarrassed expression Chen Zhizhong had as he then fiercely punched his abdomen. Puff.